Welcome to the Leadership with Vision podcast by Austin Gardner. For more information and resources, visit worldevangelism.net.
Well, I'm glad to be back with you. And again, I am here with Jeff Bush, who's the Director of Vision Baptist Missions. And Jeff, could you tell us a little bit about, you actually have you've set yourself up in two different countries. So kind of give us your history as a missionary so far. So you've actually set up in three different countries.
Yes, sir. So I finished with Bible college, headed off for deputation. My wife and I spent 18 months on the road. We traveled around just the two of us. We had a little baby girl right before we left, and we left for language school, and we set up in Peru. We spent almost 2 years in Peru, and then from Peru we went to Argentina, spent the next 8 years in Argentina, and then from Argentina we moved to the United States, where we currently are in Atlanta, Georgia, serving as the Director of Vision Baptist Missions. And so, yeah, we've had a couple different moves, setups, and learning about different things along the way.
All right, and Robert, you have lived overseas. Kind of bring them up to date on that.
I have lived overseas for 6 months. It was during my internship with the training center. I lived in Peru, Arequipa, Peru, with missionary Chris Gardner, and David was there in his first term. And so, yeah, I'm back here working at Vision Baptist Church and the Our Generation Training Center.
So what we'd like to talk to you about today is what do you do in those first 2 weeks? So right now, we are arriving at the airport in whatever city you'll depart from. In this case, we're going to say that it's Atlanta, Georgia, because that's where we live and work. And so if you were leaving from Atlanta, Georgia, and we want to get you from Atlanta to your country and through the first couple of weeks. And so we're just going to walk you through it. This is going to be so simple, so basic, that you're going to laugh and say no one would need to tell us that. But a lot of times when a guy's leaving for the field, he is quite nervous. At least I was. I'd never been anywhere. And in 1987, Betty and I drove from Cartersville, Georgia to Querétaro, Mexico. And I was so excited about getting to the field. But when I turned south in Houston, Texas, and headed towards Mexico, I got very nervous. I had no idea where I was going. I had no idea what I was doing. And so we drove to Monterrey and found a motel. I think it was Ramada Inn. And it was a Wednesday night, and I was wanting to go to church. And this is how ignorant I was. No one would be this ignorant today, but I thought, Betty said, you said we were going to go to church tonight. How are we going to go to church? I said, well, Goofy, we'll look it up in the Yellow Pages. And so we opened Yellow Pages, and of course there's no listing for church anywhere in Yellow Pages under English word church. And then the next day we drove all the way down to Querétaro and stayed there, I think, at a Holiday Inn. And the missionaries there for language school had everything done for us. They had already picked out our house, and in one 24-hour period, they took us, well, actually, one day of about 8 hours, they took us to two different stores. There were extremely large warehouses full of furniture, and we had to buy everything we wanted. And by the end of that night, that was it. They said they wouldn't have time to help us anymore, so get set up. And so now, then later I drive to fly to Arequipa or Lima, and then on down to Arequipa, and it's a little bit different because now I'm on my own totally. And so what we'd like to do is kind of remove the fear, or at least a lot of it, give you some of the unknowns. And so we're going to work through that. And so right now I'd like to talk to you about, and Jeff, we'll just start. Robert, we've all done this several times. We're going to go from our house to the airport and then get on the airplane and then land in the other country. Let's work through that part first. Go ahead.
Okay, so I would say before you even leave the airport, make sure that you've contacted some missionary or some contact in the new host country where you're going, and ask them what you need to do when you get there. For example, when we arrived to Argentina, there was a bus company, and I was told this bus company will take you to your city. My city was an hour from the airport, and so the missionary told me, go ahead and find this bus company, and you're going to take this. So I arrived with my bags, and I checked online, and that was the company. So we'll move on a little bit forward to that later. But I found out about that bus company. So go ahead. Before you even leave your house, then you want to make sure, okay, do I know what I'm doing when I get there? You're most likely going to have 20 bags unless you ship a container. So you're going to take those bags. You're going to get them all on. Maybe ask your church if I can borrow the church van. You're going to load up those 20 bags, get everybody on, go through your bags, make sure you have your passports like about 30 times. You're going to keep looking at them on the way, and you're going to head off to the airport. You're going to get there maybe 4 hours early because you got a whole lot of bags. And when you get there, check in. You got everybody there. You load them up, and you're going to go ahead and start right there from the beginning on getting there early, getting your bags on, and then headed to the back. Once you get all your bags on, you can rest for a while, knowing that your bags are going to get there to your final destination. And then you can kind of be cool and go ahead and talk to the missionary, whoever, and get ready to go.
Do you think, Robert?
No. When I went to the mission field, I had like 4 bags, and the airline lost them. So
okay. That could happen. That could happen with your 20 or 30 bags. I think Betty and I took over 40 bags, and we're going to talk because there may be a country you're going to and there's no missionary you can contact. Sometimes that happens, and you're the first one. So we're going to talk about how you get that taken care of. But before you ever got to the airport, I am sure that you already made sure you have whatever visa material. What visa material did you need to have? So do you have a visa already in your passport? Do you have a round trip ticket? Because many of these countries won't let you in unless you have several things. One, your passport needs at least 6 months still on it, or most countries won't let you fly. So like if your passport's getting close to the end of it, then make sure you renew your passport earlier. Make sure you have your visa ready, because you could easily get to the airport and then they'll tell you can't fly because you don't have a return ticket. You can't fly because you don't have a visa. So you can't fly maybe because you don't have certain vaccinations if you're going to certain countries, and you would have wasted a lot of money.
And just because you can get it online doesn't mean you are really ready to go. In other words, the first time I left for Peru, I got a one-way ticket to Peru, and I went up to the register and was getting ready to check in. She said, "Your return ticket?" And I said, "Well, I'm actually going for language school." She said, "Okay, do you have the documentation for language school?" I said, "No. Do I need that?" And she said, "Sure. You either got to show that you have visa work and that you're accepted there in that country, or you have to have a return ticket." I said, "Well, I'm not returning." And she said, "Well, you have to." So I had to buy, on credit right there, I had to buy a return ticket, 100% refundable. But just because it was 100% refundable, I think I spent $2,400 per ticket just on a return ticket. All that to say, later I got it refunded, thank the Lord. But all that to say, just because you can jump online, put in your passport number, and get a ticket doesn't mean that it's accepted there. So you have to find out. When I went to Peru, I left every 90 days, went down to the border. Most people do that, to Chile or to Bolivia. But you have to get a return ticket even if you're not going to use it, unless you have the visa work. So you have to find out from a missionary there whether they're going to pick you up or not. Hey, how does it work in your country? What do I need to do? Do I have to have a return ticket and then just leave that return ticket? You're not going to return with it, but you can leave. But find out beforehand if you need a visa and what shots or whatever you need to do to get in that country.
And if there are no missionaries, there are probably some expats. That's what they're called, expatriates. So in other words, there are other Americans or British or somebody living in that country that you can probably contact. There's often a Facebook group for those people, or there is a blog that's written by those people. And if not, talk to a good travel agent that has extensive experience in that area, because you're going to need to know what you can do. But as a general rule, to protect yourself, a round trip ticket, some kind of visa, if it's a tourist visa or whatever you want to have that. And I don't know if you noticed this so far in the discussion, but you're going to need a lot of money. You need a lot of money because you don't know, and you need a credit card, because you walk up the counter and they say you've got to buy a $2,400 ticket for 3 of you for Jeff. That's over $7,000. You probably don't have that on you in cash, and so you're going to want to have that ready. So you're going to have to use a credit card. So credit card, then you're going to need some cash to help you. And in Atlanta, probably from your house to the airport, you can probably get family or friends or church people to help you. But now you have gotten on the airplane, you've gotten all your kids settled, and you're ready to fly down there. Let's talk just briefly about traveling with small children on long flights.
Before we go, I just put something in there. Make sure you have the right names on the ticket.
No, that's a good point. Say that. Explain that.
Just make sure that if your name, whatever name you have on your passport, whatever your legal names, make sure you get your ticket under that name. I think that would be extremely
a good
wise.
example is more than one time somebody has purchased Betty a ticket, and Betty's name is Lelia Elizabeth Gardner, and they'll buy it in Betty because she's been known as Betty all of her life. And Betty's not a legal name, and so she's not legally allowed to fly with that name. Now, back before 9/11, you could have gotten away with it because they'd have understood Elizabeth, Betty, and they understand that at the airport. But nowadays, they don't. So make sure you have the right names. That's a very good point. Make sure your children's names are all the right names. Now then, on the airplane, we need a flight from Atlanta to Buenos Aires is about 10 hours?
Yes, sir.
So what do you do to help these kids?
Lots of snacks.
So you want to go ahead and be prepared.
Yeah, definitely.
You can't take liquids, but you can take
You could take Cheerios and
Tylenol PM.
No, you could take lots of snacks, little toys, and different things. I remember several times traveling with the kids, and Lord have mercy. Everybody hates when a family with kids gets on the airplane. Everybody's thinking, I hope they're in a different cabin. Nobody wants to be by kids, man. They cry, get bubble gum because, man, their ears pop when they go up or they're going down or some kind of food. Nobody likes to be with kids, and so they're yours, and you're thinking, I don't even like to be with my kids when we're on the airplane. But you have to have, some toys, maybe a little, video thing or something to help your kids when they get off the ground.
And chewing gum can help with that ear popping.
Chewing gum, chewing gum is
maybe
good.
A candy you can suck on if they're old enough to do that.
Correct, because the ears pop and the kids don't understand why.
And they're hurting.
And so they'll start screaming. I've heard many kids scream on the plane. You're like, somebody help the kid, for crying out loud.
Okay, so your airplane just landed in your country. And so we're going to walk now from the airplane. So the first thing you do when you get off that airplane is you will head for immigration. And so there you want to have all your paperwork ready, and you want to be able to show them your passport, all your children's passports, your visas. Very likely they're going to want to see your flight information, so you keep your ticket ready, and you're going to walk up to the immigrations official and be ready to deal with him.
So much in South America, I would assume many other places, if you're taking your children outside of a country into a new country, you have to prove that you're mom and dad. And you say, well, my passport says it. Well, you probably have to have their birth certificate and your marriage license, several different paperwork.
Maybe you won't have to have it to get in the country, but you're going to need it.
Without a doubt.
So they should already have. That's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up. They're going to need to have. I used to tell everybody to get 5 marriage certificates, 5 birth certificates of everybody, all legalized. I used to tell them they need their college graduation certificate, ordination certificate. What else do you can think of?
Oh, man. Yeah. I mean, you want to have everything. We had a letter from our church saying that a lot of stuff just went a little bit overboard, but we had everything.
It's good to have a letter from your church admission stating that you are financially solvent. You don't have to pull all that out. Don't show them anything they don't ask for, but if they ask, you want to be ready.
You want to. And my wife and I used to joke, and we'd say, we've had our wallets, our phones, a lot of different stuff stolen at different times, whether it's pickpocketed or whatever. And we'd say, man, I can lose anything, but we cannot lose the file with all our documents. Because, man, if you have to replace all those documents, it is like Hades, dear brother. I mean, it's horrible. And so replacing documents stinks. So you want to have a big file of all the documents, several copies. And when you get up there, if they say, hey, so is this your child? Of course it is. Well, let me see some paperwork. No problem. Here's their birth certificate. So you're the legal dad? Yep, here's mine as well. And so you have all that paperwork. You have everything right there in a file, right in your backpack or whatever, and you've got it right with you so that you can pull it out at any moment.
Now, somebody's going to say you don't need all that. Overkill is our goal.
Without a doubt.
Very likely you won't need something that we're going to tell you, but it would be better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
Very correct.
Okay, now we got to get, we've gone through there. Our next step will be to go pick up our luggage. Now, there's no longer a bunch of people to help you, and you got 2, 3, 4 small children. I had 4 children. Chris was large enough to help, and he was a big help. Stephanie was quite a bit of help. Chris would have been 11. Stephanie would have been about 9 or 10 and 8. And but you need to have on your person a lot of small bills, 1s and 5s, and just go ahead and get you a porter to help you. That's not like us, because we tend to be Americans and we don't want to pay anybody to help us. But if you got 20, 30, 40 bags, you're probably going to need some people to help you.
Yeah, you definitely will. I would say another thing real quick, Pastor, you want to make sure that you mark your bag. So everybody's got a black bag or a blue bag or brown or green, whatever. And so put a ribbon on those bags. So especially if you've got 20 bags coming out, you can say, there's the yellow ribbon. Man, that's mine, that's mine.
Yeah, make sure it's a ribbon that you're going to be recognized. That's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up because it's so easy to lose one of your bags and somebody else to get one of your bags or you to pick up somebody else's bag. All right, now you've got your paperwork, you've now got your luggage, and now you head over to the customs official. What do you declare?
As far as declaring, according to the rules, if you look on the paper, it says you can't have over $10,000 in cash, and a lot of the stuff would be for selling. And so if it's personal, some of the countries you have 20 bags, they might just let you go through because it's a moving tax. They might just put you through a red and green, light. But I wouldn't necessarily declare unless I have things that I'm selling, which I did not. Mine was all personal clothes and items for myself, so I didn't have to declare anything. I didn't have over $10,000 in cash. I didn't have to declare anything. And you realize once you go back there declaring things or having things that you say it's going to be for sale or whatever, boy, that throws up a lot of red flags, and they're going to start pulling things out. And a lot of the rules change once you get outside the United States. And I've heard missionaries say very ignorant things as far as, hey, you can't do that. No, pretty sure you can't say what they can't do, because they can do, and they will show you. They can charge you what they want, even if there's no law for it. So you better be very careful when you're on their turf.
So be respectful and be ready to show to them I am moving to this country. That's why I have so many bags. That's why I have so much stuff. If they decide to open it and look through your stuff, just be ready to let them open it and look through your stuff. Don't get an attitude. Don't be smart with them. And if you get stuck paying, again, I told you to have a whole lot of money available. But you shouldn't have to declare, because you wouldn't have over the $10,000 limit, and you wouldn't have stuff that you're selling. And unless you're bringing in major size electronics, you probably are going to be able to get through fairly easily. Don't take food items you know are against the law. That's on the form. So don't take food items. Even in America, they'll take it away from you and throw it in the garbage right there in front of you. All right, so I think that one might have got covered. I would like to remind you here that you are living the dream. So, people get all stressed out, but for how long have you went to school to prepare for this? You went on deputation to prepare for this, and now you're leaving for the field and you're freaking out? The best thing to do is realize I'm living the dream, and if I have to pay some prices, if I have some hard knocks and some things go wrong, they do. I'll just live with it because I'm living the dream. So relax. Have fun. Look at it as a part of the price you pay to serve in this ministry. Anything you'd add there, Brother Jeff, Brother Robert?
I would definitely say keep a positive outlook. I mean, it's going to help you because you are going to get frustrated and say they can't do this or they're charging me. I don't even understand what they're saying, or there's going to be 100 things, the kids being loud or whatever. Just remember, you're almost through this. Don't even worry about it. It'll go through. Pastor, if I could skip a little bit forward, you get out of the airport or you're getting ready. You got out of immigration and where you're headed to the buses or your transportation. So ours was, we got on a bus. I was told that this is a bus line that'll take you to your city. So I walked up there and acted like I knew what I was doing. I said, I need to go to La Plata. They said, it's going to be so much. And I said, I've got 30 bags or whatever we had at the time. And so we rented this big bus. And it was really dumb on my part, but I rented probably a 60-passenger bus for my wife and I and 3 little kids and all the bags because I guess I couldn't get my idea across that I needed extra room. That's all they had, so I went with a big old charter bus down to my city. But we were comfortable. We could change all the seats, and we had plenty of room.
And what did that cost you?
And that cost me a whole lot of money.
So you better have a whole lot of money. So there's several things about that.
That's one of the stupid taxes.
Yeah, that's called a stupid tax. Everybody pays those. Now, watch this. When you're walking in to the country, if you're meeting someone, that relieves almost all the stress. If there's a missionary going to be there to meet you, he's going to have a way to get your stuff back to the house and so on. You're fine. If he's not meeting you and you're alone and it's a little more stressful, I would like to give you some ideas on how I would go about handling that. And you can consider this any way you want and decide how you'd handle it. First thing I'd do, I would arrive in the country with an unlocked phone for me and my wife. Because if you're by yourself and if you're going to have to get around by yourself, you're probably going to have to split up. No one's there to meet you unless you can rent that big bus like Jeff did or something of that nature. And if you can't talk, so you may be going to get an English speaker to get you in a taxi. And if you could go ahead and buy you 2 SIM cards, go ahead and get your phones working before you ever start. So slow down and get your phones working. And then, because your wife and you're going to have to split up to get all that luggage and whatever. So one of you in the truck that's carrying all the luggage, one of you in the car, but you can keep talking the whole time. Again, you're going to need money. You got to have a way to get in there. Now, if somebody meets you, that is not an important situation, but you're going to need a way to get through, to get from the airport to wherever. So you've paid a porter. He's brought all your stuff out. You're now out in the terminal. And so you can find the people probably before you ever left the immigration and customs area. You could probably buy a SIM card. Again, if you're meeting somebody, I would not do that. But if you're not meeting someone, I would, and I would not buy. You don't get you just get a prepaid chip, get enough data and everything to take care of you. Of course, you want to have Waze or Google Maps or anything else you can that might help you get around the city because you're going to have to figure out where you are. And I would rather have enough money to buy one vehicle and keep my family together, or rent one vehicle and keep my family together if possible. Do you have a comment on that?
I would agree. If you can keep everybody together. We had, at other times when we'd come in the country, we'd get a couple different taxis or a larger van. You just pay a little bit more for a van or something, and you can keep everybody together.
But you got to be able to talk, and you got to be willing to spend money. So you just got to know that's part of what you're going to do, and you're going to pay too much. But that's okay if no one's there to meet you. Now then, I'm going to suggest that you take just under the $10,000, which gets you under the having to declare limit, and you need an ATM card so you can withdraw money, and you need to have that already worked out with your bank about where you'll go, what kind of machines you can use, and you might be wise to get Visa and MasterCard in different groups and if you could research it online, you want to know what does that country use. Like I was in Burkina Faso one time, and my ATM card wouldn't work anywhere. So some countries are doing stuff differently, so you want to find out about that.
Yeah, you could even ask the missionary, or a lot of times.
Suppose there's no missionary.
Okay,
if there's a missionary, all of these problems tend to go away if he's a decent guy.
Well, and even if there's no missionary, you could talk to people online, whether you meet them at the airport or not, and find out. But I'd say when we arrived to the city, I had no idea, and I think I did have a Master and a Visa. So I went up to several machines, and some of them didn't work. And to this day, I don't know why they don't work. The bank in the States didn't know, but I went to several. Just walk around, find a taxi, say, take me to an ATM machine, do whatever you can. Some will end up working. But when you get to the airport, I would say change some money, because the bigger places will take American dollars and give a bad exchange rate, but they'll take it. But once you get into a taxi and once you want to buy a coconut, they'll only take money from that country. And so you'll need some money. So I'd say change $200-$300 right when you get to the airport. You say, well, they're going to rip me off. Well, at least you're going to have something.
Definitely. And we got a guy going to Bosnia, and we don't know anybody, and so far he can't find anybody to help him. So we got to. I'm really wanting to help him too as we work our way through this. So you need to find out: do you need a bank account in the country? So as much of that as you can find out in the States before you get there, or from the missionary. You need some kind of temporary housing. Where will you spend the first night? If you got a missionary, he obviously will have had that worked out for you. But if there's no missionary, several of our guys go online and rent vacation houses from an what's that called? Airbnb.
I don't know.
You know what I'm talking about? It's these places that you would go to if you want to go to Hilton Head. It's where you go to find a place and you can rent a furnished house. One of our guys in Argentina recently did that. Thailand did that. I think somebody may have done that in China. But if not, you get a hotel. Finds you a place before you arrive so you know where you're going if there's no missionary.
I have a question. Would you ask a missionary that speaks the language to come with you or meet you there if you were moving and there was nobody in that city?
If they would do it. The problem is, you mean somebody from America?
Well, I don't know, from America or from another missionary?
I would definitely like to have somebody that spoke the language personally. But like if you're going to Bosnia, there's not going to be anybody. If you're going to a Spanish-speaking country, we can get you through. You could actually get somebody that speaks Spanish to meet you at the airport or to fly through with you. And if you just pay their expenses, they'd be more willing to go with you and help you. If you're going to China, we would obviously have you covered if you were with Vision. If you worked with one of our groups. But there are places you're going where there's nobody. That's the problem. We got a guy going to Turkey. We got a guy going to Bosnia. We've got to figure out how those guys are going to get their things set up. So you got you some temporary housing, you got you some cash, you got an ATM machine, you figured out how that works. You bought you a phone, you got it unlocked and you're ready to go. Maybe you got your iPad and it's unlocked and you're able to use the moving maps as you move around there, so you're ready for that. And so one of the first things I want done with anybody going is for them to write down. I want the address written down where we're staying. I want it in my children's pockets. I want it I want it on my phone. I want it in my pocket so that if any of us ever get separated, there is a sheet of paper, a 3x5 card with the address and how to get there written down, because I have had people get lost in Peru. And so it is always wise if it's a motel you're staying in. And again, you probably won't need this. And somebody's laughing and saying, that's ridiculous. I've never heard of such. But it's better to be prepared than to not be prepared. So I would suggest that you think about that. So you've gotten to your motel room or your house or the missionary's house and you're resting for the night. What do you say there, guys?
Well, I'd say, you finally get there. In our situation, it was a hotel. We just went straight to the city and we found a hotel. I don't even think we looked online. We just found the
But you already spoke the
hotel.
language.
Correct. I just came from language school.
But even coming from language school, you still ended up renting a 60-passenger bus when you should have gotten away with a 15-passenger van.
Very, very true.
And if they didn't speak the language, what would happen to them?
Correct. So we got there. We were able to put all our stuff. I think I ended up renting 2 rooms. One room was for us to stay in. The other room was just for our baggage because I didn't know what else to do with all of our
one room probably won't hold 20 or 30 bags.
Not at all. So we held all of our stuff. Next morning, we got up and I just started walking around down. I would walk downstairs, then I would ask them questions. I had already been through language school, so I had I
had
could
a
speak.
good 2 years of language under you.
Correct. So I could speak. I didn't understand a whole lot of the cultural things, but I asked them, so how do you rent a place here? And, they told me, well, after several people, they told me there's a magazine you can buy that has all the stuff stuff in the city. So I just started walking around newspaper stands. I'd pick one of those up, and then I started calling. And, that very first day, we'd just walk around on the plaza. We'd walk around the town, and I just started learning things, figuring out things, making some calls. And I'd say if you're adventurous, man, just go out and start, walking around. Just remember, refer back to what we started off with. A lot of the stuff is your attitude. If you look at it and say, man, this is crazy. I can't believe I get to do this. It'll take a lot of that fear away and the anxiety and everything. A lot of people get so nervous. They're like, I don't even know what to do. What's my next step? And they get nervous. Don't think like that. Think, man, I've raised money for this. I've been praying and dreaming about this. This is awesome. I can't believe it. It's an adventure that one day you're going to look back and you're going to say, don't you remember when we first got there? Man, that was crazy. I can't believe it. Be adventurous and realize you are living out the dream. I mean, this is great.
Now, I suggest that one of the first things you get, you can do it online, obviously, with Google Maps, but I also like a paper map that's a large paper map, because before I rent my house, I want to study the city. I want to know where the rich people live, the middle class people live, the poor people live. I want to know where the violence takes place in the city. I want to know I just want to know the city. So my first thing would be to get a taxi and or on the bus system or the train system or whatever, and ride the city. I'd like to ride around, and we're talking about a place where you don't have any contact to help you. I'd like to ride around until I have an idea. I'd like to be able to mark and say, this is a rich area. This is a church I might go to. This is the language school that I'm looking at, where it would be located. So what is the neighborhood that's closest to it? How long does it take to get from here to there? You've got a lot of questions to be answered.
Yeah, I would say we got in a taxi. We would get several taxis, and I took several different taxi companies, and I went all around the city, asked them to take me to different places. Of course, they didn't, they were getting paid, so they didn't really care, but they would take me to the rich area, the poor area. They would teach me different things. When I arrived there, January of 2004, into the country, and it looked like all the buses, it looked like there were very few people in the buses. And I kept asking the taxi drivers, is there not a lot of people who live in this city? And I could not figure it out. And they said, no, they'll be back in March. And I'm thinking, this is retarded. I don't even understand this. Come to find out, when March came, everybody in January and February in Argentina, in a lot of South America, it is it's vacation time. And so people leave the city, go down the coast. And in March, school started back up first week. And I mean, the buses were overloaded. People were everywhere. But it was totally weird to me that the buses weren't full, that there weren't a lot of people walking around. A lot of the places, even real estate agents, were closed down for a month at a time during the summer. A lot of those things were very different to me. But I began to learn about those things as time went on by.
How does a guy that doesn't know the language, how does he go about trying to figure out what area is good and what area is bad?
Well, I would suggest that if he can't find anybody that can help him with the language, first thing he ought to be doing is finding where he's going to go to language. So that's a very good question. Thank you. He needs to find out where he's going to study the language, whether it's a university or a language school, or if he's going to get a private tutor. And if he's the first guy by himself, he is going to pay a major amount of stupid taxes going to help the next guy that follows him. So he can't do quite as much. But even at that, anybody can get on the bus line and just ride the bus till it comes back to where you started. Anybody can, and then get a different bus and go to a different part of the town.
So what are you looking for when you drive?
You got an iPhone. Take pictures. Watch, what do the houses look like? What's the security look like? How dirty is it? How clean is it? How many people are on the streets? Are there gated communities? Once you've traveled the city several times, you'll start figuring out that's a nice area. Then when you go to the real estate agent, you had your map out. You can say, I like that area, and he may say, well, that's $5,000 a month. Okay, don't like that area so much, but I'd like one that costs this much. And so you're going to get to real estate agents somewhere along the way.
Even the real estate agents will lie to you. Like, I've had them take me to different areas when I was looking for buildings, and they would say, this is it was a main avenue, but it was outside of the city. And I'd say, there's not a lot of cars. Well, it kind of depends on the day. They'll tell you anything to sell it to you.
Sure they will.
So, I had them tell me, yeah, but this is prime. Come to find out later when we rented something else that was a horrible area. But, like Pastor said, we rode around a lot. We kind of looked. I got a big old map from newspaper stand.
You've got something rented. You've raised enough money. You're in a motel, or you had a house rented for a month.
Yeah, just walk around. You look at the city. You could go to the newspaper stand, at least a lot in South America. You can get, little stores. You can get a map of the city. You can see where it's growing, where it's stopping, and you just drive around. And after a while, don't take the first thing you see on anything.
No,
whether it's on a couch or a bed, or you think it's a good deal.
House.
Nothing.
Look at every house so you have bled the town dry. Okay.
What does the guy? I'm sorry, I'm just asking.
No, go ahead.
What does the guy do? He's out there. He's traveling around. He doesn't know the language, and his wife's at home or at the hotel with the kids. What does he do to help out his wife? Because it seems like that's a prime
They
location.
better both have a phone. So you already got a phone, so you can talk all day long. And if he's by himself, I probably would leave my wife if I had small children, unless we could all load in the car. The problem with taking everybody in the car is the kids are going to get tired. Yeah. They're going to get whiny. But either take them with you or leave them at home, but have a phone and stay in touch.
Do you do something in the evening or something like that to make it be fun?
Go out to eat. You don't even know what to do. It's fun. In fact, if you can't talk, you don't even know where to go. You don't know how to buy food. What is there that you can do? It's hard.
I spoke the language and I still didn't know what to do. So we would go a lot of times in the morning. We had a couple. I think we had two girls at the time when we first arrived to Argentina, and so Mindy would stay back. I would leave in the morning, and I would just go out and find places. And then later in the afternoon, in the evening, I would come back and we'd go to the plaza. We'd eat a hamburger because they had little hamburger joints there, or whatever. We'd walk around. We'd go find a restaurant. We'd go to the store, and then I'd kind of repeat the same thing the next day until I found out a little bit of the ropes of how to do different things. So
okay, I want to bring up here, don't lose things in the taxi, because now you're not driving in your car, and we are so careless. So either get a good backpack that you just hook to you and don't take off, and your wife's purse. I cannot tell you the number of passports, cell phones, laptops, etc. that have been lost in taxis. And for example, you'll get out of the taxi and you'll leave the stroller in the trunk.
You aren't getting it back.
And you are not getting it back. No. So here's some ideas. 1, tie it to you. 2, when you get out of the taxi, leave your wife sitting in the taxi. Tell the guy to open the back door of the taxi, the trunk of the taxi. That way, he gets out of the taxi. This had never happened in any other country, but taxi drivers have been known to just drive off with your stuff.
Yeah.
They don't even wait to see if because you're not thinking, you're nervous. Would you agree with that, or what do you feel like?
Definitely. I've even lost Bibles and stuff in taxis, and you can call the company, and they'll say, okay, you're not getting it back. I mean, it's gone. I've left a camera with policemen and don't even get that back. You're not getting stuff back once you leave it. So
well, at least not in South America. We can't speak for every country, but where we are. Now, you're looking for a house. Maybe I ought to break this into another podcast, but you're looking for a house. You've looked around the city. You've found the areas. You've gone to a real estate agent. There are things that I look for in a house, and I have my checklist ready before I go look for a house. And so I'd like y'all's questions, arguments, discussion. I want 3 to 4 bedrooms, 2 to 3 baths. I want security. By that I mean I want to have bars on the window or fence around the place and bars on the window. I don't need a whole lot of yard, which you wouldn't get in South America, but I want things that would help me at night when I lay down to feel like no one is going to break in. I want hot water. You think no one would ever have to ask that question. In South America, you would have to ask that question. We want to know,
can Wi-Fi get to that area?
Can Wi-Fi get to that area? We want internet. We want to know, can you get cable TV? We want to know everything about that house. So get in mind what you want your house to be like.
Yeah, I'd say I agree. You as the man are going to be leaving during the day, so you want to make sure that it's something comfortable for your wife. So I'd say a lot of the decisions, let her make. You see several houses, say, so dear, what do you like about this house? Man, I love the 4 bedrooms. The master bedroom was awesome. That was great, but I don't like the area. Okay, let's see some more. Write it all down. But you look at those different things. Find out if there's no, at least in South America in our area, if there's open fields, it's just not a good thing. A lot of people can
you don't
hide
want
in
people
those.
to have access to be able to break in when nobody. People, you like your house to be surrounded on 3 sides. Although in America you wouldn't want that.
And people might be listening, saying, "Why in the world would you want bars on your window? Are you a nut?" Well, let's just say in South America, a lot of times they'll have high walls, they'll have glass on top of the walls, they'll have bars on the door, they'll have double doors, which would be like a metal door and then a regular door, and so the security is a little bit different. There's petty, thievery and different things. So you do want that security. Maybe even have an alarm system.
Definitely.
Which we had. It's a lot better. And so there's a lot of different things that you can do to make sure about security, about the comfort, about the area. Does it close to a plaza that you can walk around? Is there something for the kids?
I would like a bathroom in my bedroom if at all possible. A lot of the missionaries are going to look for a tub to bathe their children in. A lot of times you can't find a tub. I would like to have a place where my children could play out in the street and I wouldn't have to be worried because my children wouldn't get hurt, wouldn't get kidnapped, and other people would be there to watch over them. Please understand that the people talking to you right now have had everything from being held up at knife point, gun point, and rape. And therefore, we are a little bit on the side of security and some caution about that. And I would suggest that you at least consider that. so that your wife can feel. You always feel threatened when you're in a place you've never been to. So do what you can to remove some of that fear.
I'd say definitely go back to what we said. Look at several. Don't grab the first one. You might say, man, this is nice. Well, there's a lot more that are just as nice. So look around, especially you're all by yourself. My wife and I saw all the houses by ourselves, just the two of us. So, we saw a lot of different houses, a lot of different areas. Later, I remember there was one house that, man, I really liked. It was big. It was nice. It had a walk-in closet. It was amazing. I loved it. But there was something about the area that it didn't go well with my wife. She just kept saying, I like the price. It looks nice, but I'm just not comfortable. Later, we found another spot. Very thankfully, we went to another spot and we found out that area, it just was not a good area. And so look at several houses. Put everything in the pros and cons. It's got a big room, but it's not a good area. It's got really nice bedrooms and more bedrooms, but it's just not as big, or whatever. Go through all the different things, the checklist, and see what you want. Look at a lot of houses and make your decision afterwards.
Get you a good contract on your house. And know now that, again, you're going to need quite a bit of money. You could have to pay 3 months to a year in advance. So you got to have the money. You have to put down deposits. Take pictures of everything in your house so that when he comes back later and says you damaged something, you'll be able to show that you didn't damage it. And so you want to kind of give a walkthrough with him and keep evidence that you have gone through that and looked at it. So, get a timestamp on the picture, give him a copy of the picture, get him to agree that that's what things look like, because normal wear and tear, at least in Peru, they're going to figure out a way to try to take advantage of you when you leave that house.
I'd say very likely you're not. In a lot of places, you won't get your guarantee back, which is at least 1 month beforehand that you have to pay, or the last month, and very likely they're not going to give it back to you. So, take those pictures and make sure you have it. Do things in the right way. But yeah, look at a lot of different places. Take your time. Keep staying in that hotel until you've got a good place chosen. And after you do find the house, then go ahead and start walking around and looking at furniture stores and say, hey, we like this furniture. Even while you're looking at houses, you can find some furniture stores and find the fridge and the sofa and all the beds and the stuff that you want, so that when you do get the house, you go ahead and go straight to those stores, buy it, and then take it there.
And some people ask me about transformers, and that's an important question. What do you say about transformers?
You'll definitely need them. I would say buy them. Most countries go on to 240, 220. You won't need it here in the States, but I would say don't take them from the States to your country. Buy them in that country.
They weigh too much to put in your bags, and they won't be as well done in America because we're not used to that. So I would buy them in the country when I get there. And we're
not talking about Optimus Prime either.
Yeah. What's that mean? Oh, yeah. Okay, that's a movie. We're talking about a transformer to change the current, and you want to buy that in the country, and just as much of you can buy stuff that works on both voltages, but you will take some stuff from the States that does not work. And we'll talk about that on another podcast. Well, I'm just looking over our notes to see if we've covered everything. We're going to want to buy a car, and again, it's going to be very similar to the other. It's the sooner you can get your own vehicle, the easier. I'd buy a cheaper car to get started with. You are paying stupid tax up front. You know that, so be ready for it, and just know as much about the vehicles as you can. Any comments about a car, Jeff?
No, I would say in a lot of countries, ask around, because a lot of countries in South America, a used car is pretty much almost the same price as a brand new car. So just find out, be careful. A lot of mechanics are not honest. They'll, fix something, put a little bit of sawdust in the engine or something so it runs for a while. They'll do some pretty sly things to get away with. And I don't know anything about engines or anything to know better. So I would be very careful while you're looking for a car.
But if you've raised enough money, you should be able to buy a vehicle. And if you do buy the vehicle, start making monthly payments to yourself to buy the next vehicle to replace that vehicle, because you've got a budget and you've gone through some training about how to handle your money, and you don't want to be asking churches to buy you a car. They know that nobody else gets asked somebody to buy them a car, so you should be trying to get all that set up and be organized and have a budget, and then you'd have enough money saved to buy your car when the time came. Well, is there anything y'all like to say to wrap up this session here? We've gone like double today.
Nope. Let me just throw in for last time. Just remember, all these mistakes or whatever, they're all going to be good lessons to help the next guy who follows you. So keep a good positive outlook. Say, man, this is great. I get to do all this, learn all these things, and man, you are living the dream. This is excellent. This is amazing. You've been praying and wanting and desiring this for a long time. So enjoy it.
Well, we've tried to help you with the first 2 weeks, and I know we've taken a lot of time, but you can look that over, ask more questions, and maybe help us add more stuff to that material. We just want to help you as you get set up where God's taking you. Thank you very much for listening to Leadership with Vision. It's been Jeff Bush, Robert Canfield, and Austin Gardner, and we've enjoyed talking with you today.
You've been listening to Leadership with Vision by Austin Gardner. Visit worldevangelism.net to discover more podcasts and useful art.